Hey everybody, Ryan Yule here once again for the Africa Digital Media Academy, and we're going to be looking today in motion at video retiming. So taking video and changing the way it plays, forwards, backwards, fast, slow, all kinds of things. So today, let's just go and grab our footage that we're going to be looking at. And so I've chosen this footage that I've made right here, and that's mostly because it's very easy to tell what's going on if I just play this, because we've got numbers here which represent, an easy way when we start changing the timing of this, how this affects, the project. So one thing you'll notice right now is that, we have numbers 1 all the way through to 125. And if I actually go here and change this to show frames, you'll actually notice it lines up. So right now, frame 1, it says 1. So I've done this on purpose just to demonstrate how video retiming works. So first thing I want you to notice is if we highlight our footage here in the project pane, go to Inspector, go to Properties, down at the bottom here, you'll see timing, and we can select show here. And so, first thing you notice, one thing we can do is we can change things from a constant speed to a variable speed. So under constant speed, right now we're at 100%. Let's say we want the video footage to play back at half speed. Well, let's just change that to 50%. And now you'll see, if I play this, it is now playing at half speed. And how can we tell? Well, if I go to frame 40 here, you'll see it says number 20. So indeed, we are playing at half speed. And if I go right to the very end here, at frame 125, it's 63, which is about half. So right away, you can change a constant speed to something that you want. Maybe we want really slow, let's say 10% here. And now it's going to be playing really slow. So you can change the constant speed here. Let's change it back to 100. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that with your footage, the frame blending, which for those of you coming from Final Cut are going to recognize, there's a few options here. Now, blending, motion blur blending, and optical flow, just to keep things simple, if you switch to optical flow, that is definitely going to give you the best chance at the best quality footage when you start slowing things down, because what happens is it actually will take frames and look at the difference and changes in frames and try to kind of create frames in between and almost draw in between frames that match between your slowed down footage. Now, motion blur blending and blending, these options do something a little bit simpler in that they just take, if you have a bunch of frames that are slowed down, it will just start blending them or try to use some motion blur blending. So this is just something you're going to have to try out on your own, but keep in mind optical flow is probably going to give you your best results, probably, but it's also going to be quite processor intensive and take a lot of rendering, whereas like blending and motion blur blending are kind of a lesser quality. So just keep that in mind. These are things you can change when you're slowing down your footage, even speeding it up. Now, the other thing here for time remap is we can actually change this to a variable speed. Now, once we do that, we can actually do something like this. So let's go to frame 30. So I'm just going to go to frame 30 here. And now I'm going to add a keyframe, and I'm going to say, okay, at frame 30, I actually want the value to be, let's say, 15. Okay, so there's 15. So now watch what happens is that between frames 1 and 30, so here's frame 1, and here is frame 30, it actually only plays 15 frames. So it actually slows it down. So if I play here, it slows it down until it gets to frame 30 where I have my keyframe. Then between frame 30 and the end, it ends up going and speeding things up. So what ends up happening here is that for these first 30 frames, it's slow, and then from then on, to catch up, it actually makes the footage speed up. So for instance, let's play here, it's going slow, and then after frame 30, it's actually playing a little bit faster than normal, so that by the time it gets to the end, it's caught up all the way to roughly 125 or 124. So another way to look at that is if, for instance, so let's say at frame 30, we have the value of 15. So you can see here's frame 30, we have a value of 15. Now let's go to frame 60, and let's add another keyframe. And now let's change this value to something like 100. Okay? So now you can see that for the first 30 frames it's going slow because it gets to 30 and it's only doing 15 frames of video. Then for the next 30 frames it really speeds up until we get to frame 60, which is at roughly 100. It's pretty close. And then you'll notice now between frame 60 and 125 it's going to play slow because there's less frames, right? If we're already on frame 60 here, okay, so frame 60 and we're at number 100, to go from frame 60 all the way to frame 125 is 65 frames. Well, if we have 65 frames but we only have 25 numbers, you're going to notice it's going to play quite slow because at the end of the day it wants the footage to always end at the same frame. So it's just something you're going to have to play around with. It's a little abstract, but you can actually slow down and speed up your footage using these keyframes with variable speeds. Now, one other thing you can do is if we switch this back to a constant speed and put this at 100, let's say for instance I want to have numbers, let's go with, let's see here, 1 to, let's say 1 to 30. So we're at a 100% constant speed, so we're at normal speed, and we're only going to go up to the number 30, okay? So 30. Now, this is where end condition can do something interesting. If we have a piece of footage here, and this footage is 30 frames long, and as you can see, it goes up to frame 30, I can do an end condition of, for instance, loop, okay? So I've selected loop. Now, first off, it doesn't seem like anything's changing, right? Because it just ends. But if I now stretch this out like this, you'll see that because the footage was originally 30 frames long, when it gets to 30, it loops back to 1. And then it goes again to 1. And it goes again to 1. Now, of course, I could change this end duration to something else, and it would change the settings here so that it affects things. Now that's more, for instance, like ping pong. So let's just go back and let's undo this. So let's change, okay, we got frames 1 to 30 here. Let's change this from looping, okay, because when you have looping, if I go and, again, change this, you'll see, okay, it's looping at 30. Now, what if I, instead of loop, change this to ping pong? Now, on ping pong, you'll see again, nothing seems to be happening. But if I stretch this out, you can see it is going from 30 back to 1, back to 30, back to 1. So these settings here, ping pong and hold, well, that one would be easy. That one just goes in and changes so that at 30 frames it holds it. Now the end duration is something where you can just say how long it holds the end duration. So do I want to hold the end duration for 37 frames? Do I want to hold the end duration for 58 frames? Do I want to maybe change this to ping pong? And now with ping pong, let's say I want to ping pong every say 18 frames. So the frame duration is 18 frames. So what that means is this number right here changes how much the end goes on right here. So again, if we have this footage going for 100 frames, then with ping pong set, it's going to ping pong from 1 to 30 for 100 more frames. So this value right here just changes how long the end duration is. And if we go and change this back to none, maybe we want to have it ping pong between 1 and 10. So that means I'm just going to go here and change this to 10. And then again, I'm going to change the end condition to ping pong. And I'm going to maybe change this now to 115 so that we are going for the entire duration. And now you can see it is going to go back and forth between 10 and 1 for all of those frames. So the timing here can be changed a lot. Of course, if I just undo all this and now take off ping pong here and go none, and change this back. Of course, another one that we can do here is we can go to reverse, pretty straightforward. Now it's going to go from 125 to 1, so reverse is another feature. So these are very, hands-on manual controls of timing for video. Now, of course, where the fun really is in behaviors, okay? So you can do timing in the properties of video, but you can also go to library and you can go into retiming for behaviors, so behaviors, retiming, and you can start doing other things. So for instance, here's another reverse, right? If I drag reverse onto my footage, and now, of course, it's going to play in reverse like it is. But let's try something here. Let's change the duration of our behavior and watch what happens. So here's our duration. We've made it smaller. Now let's play it. So you can see here we're starting out normal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And watch what happens. Bang! Reverse, and then forward. Now, what just happened, okay? Well, we're going from 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and then all of a sudden we're at 56. And it goes from 56 down to 36, and then back to 57. So what's actually happened is motion has taken the footage in this area right here, so where this reverse behavior is, it's taken footage here and just reversed it for this one section. So as you can see, we're at 35. The next number should be 36. So 36 is all the way over here. It finishes at 57, so that means before that was 56, and here is 56. So that is how the reverse behavior works if you're going to do a different section. How about ping pong? Let's take ping pong here, let's go on to here, and let's bring up the HUD, so F7, HUD. So you'll see the duration for ping pong is 30. So now if I hit play, you'll see it goes from 1 to 30, back to 1, and then to 30, and then back to 1. So it's kind of switching back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. What if I change this down to, let's say, 5? Like this. Okay, here we go. So now we're at 5. So now watch, we got 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 5. So, and the reason it's choosing those numbers 1 to 5 is because it is grabbing the first 5 frames where the behavior starts. What were to happen if we were to say change this back to, let's go back to how about 15, okay? Let's change it to 15. But let's also move the behavior here so that the behavior starts at frame, let's say 30, okay? So the behavior is starting at frame 30. What do you think is going to happen now? Well, let's watch. We start going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way to 30. And then once we hit 30, remember the duration's at 15, so it is going to start going from, as you can see here, so the start here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it goes to 15, and then it goes back and forward and back for 15. So what it actually did was it took these first 15 frames and then ping-ponging them back and forth for the duration of this behavior. So that's how ping pong is doing for that. How about, let's go with something different here. Let's go hold frame, okay? So we'll bring the hold frame on. And as you can see right now, we have put the hold frame behavior onto frame, starting the behavior at frame 59. So it's going to hold the frame at 59. So if we play it from the beginning here, you can see it's going along, and then once the behavior starts at frame 59, boom, it holds it at frame 59. So if we were to move this hold frame forward and put it somewhere here, let's say at frame 35, if we play it, it'll hold frame 35. Now, what happens when the behavior finishes? Well, once it finishes, it starts going at the next frame. So it held the frame for this duration. Once it was finished, it started playing from the next frame, which was 36. So these behaviors, and there's more of them here that you can all, try out. These behaviors really affect your video in a way without having to go in and, recreate these things manually, because a lot of these things you could actually recreate with the timing property here for the video, but sometimes it's just easier and more fun, to be honest, just to go into behaviors, select retiming, and start putting on your behaviors for your retiming video. So that is a quick look at retiming video in motion.